when I boarded that midnight flight out of Lagos. I told myself I was leaving behind the noise, the arguments, the constant pressure to try and be what everyone else wanted me to be. The ticket said Portland, Oregon, a city I'd only seen once in a travel blog where someone described it as rainy, quiet, and unexpectedly beautiful. That was enough for me. I wanted quiet. I wanted air that didn't feel heavy. Most of all, I wanted peace. But what I found was something else entirely. I remember sitting by the window, watching the city lights of home fade beneath the clouds. My chest tightened, not from regret, but from the terrifying thrill of starting over. There's a loneliness to running away, but also a freedom in knowing no one is following. For the first time in years, I could breathe without waiting for someone's opinion to cut my lungs in half. When I landed in Portland, the air was cold enough to bite. The drizzle felt like tiny needles on my skin, and yet it was refreshing. I dragged my single suitcase through the arrivals terminal, clutching the crumpled paper where I'd scribbled the address of the rented basement apartment that would be home. But as I pushed through the sliding doors, I noticed him. He stood out not because of his looks, though, God, he had them in abundance, but because of how still he was. Tall, broad shoulders wrapped in a long wool coat the color of charcoal, an umbrella tilted lazily over his head while he scrolled through his phone. People rushed past. Taxis honked. Rain splashed against the pavement, but he was unbothered, like time was just a command. Our eyes met for a second. Just one. Enough to make me look away too quickly, pretending I hadn't been caught staring. But my heart raced anyway, my fingers tightening around the suitcase handle as though I'd been branded by something I wasn't ready to name. I never expected to see him again. Hey, before I go deeper, I have to break the fourth wall here. If you're watching or reading this right now, do me a favor. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment too. Tell us where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll feel bad later if you don't. This story is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what comes next. The basement apartment was smaller than the photos online. A single bed, a stove that wheezed before it lit, and a bathroom where I couldn't stretch my arms without touching both walls. But it was mine. Quiet. Private. That first night, lying under a threadbare blanket, I whispered to myself, "This is peace." You asked for peace. But by the end of that week, peace began to taste like loneliness. Portland wasn't unfriendly. It was just reserved. People nodded, smiled politely, and moved on. The streets glistened with rain. Cafes hummed with soft music. But no one asked who I was or why I was there. Maybe that was a blessing. Maybe it was punishment. It was the third Saturday after I arrived when I saw him again. I had wandered into a downtown gallery I couldn't afford, pretending I belonged there, letting the paintings swallow me whole. And there he was, charcoal coat, dark hair brushed neatly back, eyes like the Pacific under storm clouds. He stood in front of a massive canvas of abstract blues and grays, arms crossed, lost in thought. I tried to walk past him, tried not to look, but as I did, he spoke. "You're staring," he said, voice smooth but edged with amusement. My stomach dropped. At the painting. He turned his head slightly, one eyebrow raised. "Are you sure?" Heat rushed to my face. Pretty sure. That was the moment. That sharp, teasing grin that spread across his face like it had been waiting years for me. "Alden," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, warm, lingering. I swallowed, forcing my voice steady. Rafiq. The name hung between us, an introduction that felt heavier than it should. He didn't let go of my hand right away. His thumb brushed once against my palm, almost by accident, almost not. Then he released me, leaving my skin tingling with the ghost of his touch. "Rafiq," he repeated slowly, tasting the syllables. "You don't look like you're from around here." "I'm not," I admitted. "Good," he said simply, turning back to the painting. "Neither am I." That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in the basement room, the sound of rain drumming against a small window, replaying that grin. That voice that brushed his thumb against my hand. I'd come here for peace. So why was it that my chest ached not with calm, but with longing? The next time I saw Alden, it wasn't by accident. He found me. I was sitting in a corner of Powell's books, that labyrinth of paper and ink that felt safer than any church I'd ever entered. My cheap umbrella leaned against the chair, dripping a small puddle onto the floor, and I was pretending to be interested in a paperback I couldn't afford. Then a voice cut through the soft murmur of the cafe inside the store. Rafiq. I looked up, startled. Alden stood a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets, rain still beating on his shoulders. That grin, the one I hadn't been able to forget, was back. You remember my name? I said. Of course, he replied easily. Yours is not a name one forgets. He asked if he could sit. He didn't need to ask. Somehow, his presence had already rearranged the room around him. He leaned back, studying me as if I were another piece of art, not a stranger with second-hand shoes and a heart still half-packed in luggage. What are you reading? He asked. I lifted the book just enough for him to see the title. He tilted his head. Good choice. Have you ever been to the author's readings here? They're intimate. That word, intimate, it made something shift low in my stomach. We spoke in easy rhythms after that. About the rain, about food, about how Portland sometimes felt like the inside of a dream you couldn't wake from. His voice carried weight and calm, like it wasn't in a hurry to get anywhere. Then, without warning, he asked, What are you doing tonight? Tonight? He smiled. Come, let me show you something. We took an elevator so smooth and silent, I barely realized we were moving. When the doors opened, I stepped into another world. A penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls looked out over Portland, the city lights shimmering against the wet pavement below. The air smelled faintly of cedar and something darker, richer, oud, I would later learn. The furniture was sleek, but not cold. Books lined one wall, arranged with care. A grand piano sat in the corner, silent but alive, like a beast waiting to be touched. This is, my voice faltered, this is yours. Alden slipped off his coat, revealing a fitted black sweater that clung to his chest. He moved with quiet confidence, like he belonged not just in the room, but in the view itself. Mine, he confirmed, and tonight, yours too. He poured us glasses of wine without asking, as though he already knew I'd accept. When he handed me the glass, our fingers brushed again. This time, he didn't pull away. We stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. He asked me about my life before Portland, and I gave him pieces. Never the whole story, just enough to explain the distance in my voice. He didn't push. He just listened, his gaze steady, his body close enough to feel the warmth radiating through his sweater. At one point, I asked him why he'd invited me here. Because, he said simply, you look like someone who's been searching for something he doesn't know how to name. My chest tightened. And you think I'll find it here? His eyes held mine. I think you already have. The silence after that was thick, electric. My pulse quickened, but I didn't move. Neither did he. We stood there, caught in something unspoken. The city stretched out beneath us, the rain tapping like fingers on a glass. When he finally reached out, it wasn't sudden. It was deliberate. His hand cupped the side of my face, thumb grazing my cheekbone. My breath hitched, but I didn't pull away. You can stop me, he whispered. I didn't. The kiss was slow at first, gentle, testing. His lips warm, patient, waiting for me to lean in, to meet him halfway. When I did, the world outside vanished. It was just us, the taste of wine, the sound of our hearts racing against the quiet of the penthouse. By the time he pulled back, my hands were trembling. He smiled, not triumphant, but tender. Stay tonight, he murmured. And though every part of me screamed that I had come here for peace, not this, my answer was already sealed. Yes, I should have left. Every sensible part of me whispered it, as I stood in Alden's penthouse, the rain streaking down the glass walls behind him. I should have said thank you for the wine. Thank you for the view. Thank you for the kiss that made my knees weak, but I'm not ready. But instead, I placed my glass on the counter and watched him move through the space like it belonged to him, like I somehow belonged to him too. Do you play? I asked, nodding at the piano in the corner. He looked over, lips quirking. Sometimes, when I'm drunk, or when I'm lonely, which are you tonight? His eyes lingered on me. Neither, not anymore. The silence stretched between us again, heavy but not uncomfortable. I felt it, like a tide pulling me toward him, a gravity I couldn't escape. My chest tightened with something I hadn't felt in years. Hunger. When he crossed the room, I didn't step back. His hand brushed against mine, a touch so simple it was almost cruel. My skin burned at the contact. He leaned in just slightly, his breath grazing my jaw. "You're trembling," he murmured. "Maybe." I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. "Do you want to stop?" It was the second time he'd given me the chance to walk away. The second time I didn't take it. No. His mouth was on mine before the word had fully left. This kiss was different. Hungrier, deeper, his hand sliding to the back of my neck to hold me in place. I pressed into him, my body betraying every ounce of restraint I had carried across oceans. The taste of him, wine and warmth, and something sharp I couldn't name, was intoxicating. My hands clutched at his sweater, desperate to anchor myself. When his tongue brushed against mine, I shivered, the sound that left me embarrassingly soft, needy. He pulled back just enough to search my face. "You've been starved of this," he whispered. It wasn't a question, and the ache in my chest confirmed it. I let out a shaky laugh. "You don't even know me." His thumb traced my lower lip, eyes darkening. "I know enough." We kissed again, slower this time, deeper. Every brush of his lips felt like a promise. Every press of his hand against my back felt like an anchor pulling me closer. The rain outside thickened, drumming harder against the glass, as though the city itself had decided to bear witness. At some point, we moved. I wasn't sure if he led me or if I followed. One moment we were by the window. The next I was pressed against the piano, his hands braced on either side of me. "Rafik," he breathed, my name breaking apart on his tongue. I didn't answer. I just leaned up and kissed him again, pouring every ounce of loneliness, fear, and longing into the space between us. It was messy, desperate, human, and it was only the beginning. Hold up if you're still with us. Don't scroll away. Hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe for the rest of the chapters. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. You're part of this journey now, and I promise you don't want to miss how deep this goes. Later, when we finally slowed, when his forehead rested against mine and his breaths came out ragged, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just desire. It wasn't just the thrill of a kiss in a stranger's penthouse. It was the beginning of something I had no control over. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of that.